With the Pledge of Allegiance followed by invocation by Commissioner Jones. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, as we gather today, we ask that your blessings for your wisdom to make wise decisions on behalf of taxpayers of Finney County. Also, we give you thanks for the moisture that we receive, and that you bless everybody in this room and keep them safe in their travels in this inclement weather. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Welcome, everyone. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you our interim assistant county administrator, Gary Meager. Gary, would you come forward, introduce yourself to the viewing public and the commission, and make a short comment, please?
Good morning, Commissioners. I apologize for my voice. I think I've got something over the weekend, and it's it's going around, but I'll try to make this brief. First of all, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve in this position. It's really an honor and a privilege, and I really look forward to working with all of you. This has been a very welcoming experience. I came here last week, worked with Robert and the staff, and they were very willing to help me to understand what's going on. They've got a lot of good things going on, a lot of good projects, and I think it's going to be a very interesting time. You're really in a good position with the things that are going on in the community, and I know this community is very, very vibrant and has done a lot of things and has been an example for a lot of communities across the state. My experience is I came from, currently live in Reno County. I was a county administrator for 10 years there, and I've been in city and county administration for about 30 years. So I hope that my experience will be such that I can help move along the good things that the commission, Robert, and the staff are working on currently.
Thank you, Gary. Welcome to our community. And Commissioners, do you have any questions of Gary? This is kind of an impromptu deal, but I wanted the public to get to know who Gary was. And do you guys have anything? All right, welcome.
Questions. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
I don't have any other chair comments this morning. We'll move to consent agenda. Commissioners?
I move that we approve the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This morning we have an opportunity for public comment. Madam Clerk, does anyone wish to address the commission this morning?
Yes, sir. Callie Dyer.
Callie? Please announce yourself for the viewing public so they know who you are. Most of them probably do know.
Thank you, Chair. Callie Dyer with Finney County Community Health Coalition, also known as Live Well Finney County. Thank you for having me this morning. I won't take up much of your time. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you that always attend the legislative coffees. It's always good to see you all. I'm here before you today to let you all know that Beth and I were in Washington, D.C. last week. We graduated from the CADCA Coalition. We spent a year in training to work on substance abuse for our community, and we're very proud of that graduation for not only our coalition, but for this community. While we were there, we were notified by our friend DJ Gehring that works for HIDA that we had a spike in overdoses. There were 3 in 11 hours. This continues to be a problem in our community. Want to remind you all that we do give away Narcan in our office for free, and we are able to do that because of a grant that we currently have with KDH&E for the drug endangered children. And so if anybody needs that, it's free of charge, no judgment. We just want that out in our community. And we also do free training for anybody that wants to learn how to administer that. And on Tuesday of next week, we will be doing our community health needs assessment at noon in classroom B and at 6 o'clock. So if anybody wants to be a part of that, anybody has concerns about the health of our community, we would love to have you. Okay, questions for me? Comments?
Well, did you get a chance to view or see the Healthcare Coalition showcase?
No, we did not. We were out of town, actually.
Okay, was there any reason why St. Catherine's and Spirit was not at the showcase?
Sir, we are not employees of there. We are just office there, but I have no idea. But in the future, if you would like us there, we'd be happy to be there.
Right, that'd be wonderful.
Right. Thank you.
Congratulations on your graduation.
Thank you very much, Vicki.
Any other public comment? All right, and we'll move then into the business agenda and hear from Roxanne Lansing, Executive Director of the CVB Board. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Roxanne Lansing, Executive Director of the Finney County CVB. We're here before you to approve a new board member. You have two names in front of you, Robert Gonzalez and Matt Cole. I would need you to choose one to fill Jessica Wyckoff's position.
How long is this position?
This position is a one-year term with consecutive two-year terms. They can serve up to 7 years on our board.
Commissioners, questions for Roxanne?
Are you recommending one over the other, or?
Matt Cole is starting to go back out on patrol, and he let me know that he would have a harder time making meetings. So at this time, not because of anything other than attendance, I would recommend Mr. Gonzalez.
Okay.
Anything else, Commissioners? It's our job to make an appointment. Is there a motion?
I move that we appoint Mr. Gonzalez to the CVB.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that Robert C. Gonzalez be appointed to the CVB Board to fill the term of Jessica Wyckoff.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a one-year term.
That's a one-year term. It is the at-large seat.
Very good. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Emergency management pickup purchase. Paul?
Again, I apologize. My voice may be going in and out. Probably got the same thing Gary has, but I'm Paul Wesley, the emergency manager for Finney County. Wanting to replace my Dodge Durango and get a used four-wheel drive pickup, be a little more conducive to our operations over there for what we need. Opted to go to used again, just for taxpayer purposes. It's a lot cheaper to have something with lower miles than it is to go buy a new vehicle and go through some of the problems with the newer vehicles. So I'd found one that fits my needs. So here locally, Burtis Motors has got one. So I do have the money in my budget. I'd planned for it. Waited a little bit because I did not have a second person with me, so I did not need another vehicle, but I'm just recently hired one, so now I need something different, so.
Okay, questions for Paul?
No questions.
Is there a motion?
So move that we approve the purchase of this vehicle.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Multiple seconds. For the record, who's going to be the second?
Vicki.
Vicki is. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Next on our business agenda is to hear from Kenneth Jones, Public Works Operations Coordinator. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kaylee Jones. I'll also be presenting for Jerry Hahn. He's at a conference this week. The Public Works Department's in need of purchasing 2 pickups for Road and Bridge and 1 for Noxious Weed Division. We went out to Shawnee Mission, who has the state contract, and their bid for the 2 Road and Bridge pickups was $50,023, or $48,150, sorry, per pickup. And the Noxious Weed pickup was $50,023. Just out of curiosity, I went and asked Burtis Motors for a bid to see what it would be locally. Their bid was $51,402 for the Road and Bridge pickups, $54,342 for the Noxious Weed. If we purchase from the state contract, we do not have to follow the purchasing policy, but if we choose not to go that way, then we need to go out for sealed bids. I just went to Burtis to find out, to get a range of where the state contract was compared to others. So we have 3 alternatives. You may consider and approve accepting the state contract bid from Shawnee Mission Ford for $95,000 to be paid out from Road and Bridge Equipment Reserve Fund, and $1,300 to be paid from the Road and Bridge Fund, and $50,023 to be paid from Noxious Weed Capital Outlay Fund. Or you may waive the purchasing policy and consider accepting the bid from Burtis Motors for $92,804 to be paid from Road and Bridge Equipment Reserve Fund, and $10,000 to be paid out of Road and Bridge Fund, and $54,342 to be paid from the Noxious Weed Capital Outlay Fund. Or the third option, the board may decline both bids and follow the purchasing policy by opening it up to public bid. Staff recommends option 1 to accept the state contract, and if you choose not to do that, then we would recommend alternative 3 to go out for sealed bids.
All right, questions for commissioners?
Do you specifically want Ford or?
Because of the motors and what we have, they're the only ones that could meet our bid options.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the state selection of the state bid. I like to buy local, but when we can save the taxpayers' money, so be it.
All right, if I understand your motion, it's alternative number 1 as presented.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve alternate number 1 on the presentation for the purchase of the subject vehicles. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the only thing is I agree with Larry. I'd like to keep our funds locally if possible, and that's why I will probably vote nay on this, because I think opening up to the purchase policy and see what other deal, we've got 3 other dealers in town, and I just think it would be showing our taxpayers that we are looking for the lowest bid, best bid and lowest bid.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
I'm gonna vote nay. Let's set it out for bids, please.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead, hold on, Kaylee. Let's go ahead and get some authorization to do that. Is there a motion to set this out for bids?
So moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to submit this out for bids according to the policy. Is there any further discussion on the pending motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll put it out for bid.
All righty, thank you.
Next on the agenda is the approval of a Kirkham Michael contract for the initial design. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Mackenzie Phillips, Development and Administrative Coordinator. Before you this morning, the board is asked to consider and approve the contract with Kirkham Michael to perform the preliminary engineering and traffic impact study for the improvements to Northwest Industrial Park. So Kirkham Michael has submitted a contract to authorize additional services to perform the preliminary engineering and traffic impact study for the Northwest Industrial Park project. The contract total for additional services is $230,000. Kirk and Michael has already begun work on both the preliminary engineering and the traffic impact study. So before you this morning, you have two alternatives. The Board of County Commissioners may consider and approve the contract with Kirk and Michael to perform the preliminary engineering and traffic impact study and authorize the chairman to sign, or the Board of County Commissioners may not consider and approve the contract with Kirk and Michael. And staff does recommend alternative one. As I mentioned, the total contract cost is $230,000. This fiscal responsibility will be split between the dedicated property owners that will be pitching in, and that will be decided through the development agreements. We don't have those development agreements in place yet, so we don't know those actual costs of how much is going to be put in from the other property owners.
As I understand it, the $230,000 cost, however, will be incorporated into the development agreements for the three property owners.
Correct.
That allocation is yet to be decided.
We have a preliminary allocation. It's just we haven't had those discussions, official discussions with all of the property owners.
Very good. Do you see any problem spreading this cost out between the three property owners and development agreements, Madam Counselor?
I mean, from our end, obviously, I don't see it as being a problem.
All right,
We'll see as we go through those agreements.
thank you. That's my questions. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Are they allocated by footage, acreage? How do you?
I can have C.W. Harper with Kirk and Michael is actually here. He can talk a little bit more about that if you would like.
Please introduce yourself for the viewing public.
C.W. Harper with Kirk and Michael. Basically, it's allocated by the frontage road required by the development. So, like the Simmons property basically comes all the way down to Acker Way, even though that doesn't actually frontage their entire property. It's basically, that's the roadway that was required to basically access their property. So, and then like the truck wash is pretty much just the frontage in front of his property. And then Solar Ave is,
Just
and
truck stop, right?
yeah.
What, so it appears that Eclipse Avenue has the most frontage all the way around one property.
Yeah. It's largely going to fall to Simmons or DJD properties.
So you have negotiation with the property owners yet, or haven't?
We've had initial talks with them, and they kind of preliminarily agreed to certain amount of funding when we submitted the application to the states. And so essentially we're still in that ballpark. We're basically in the same numbers.
Okay.
Any other questions, commissioners?
I don't have any questions, but I just have a comment. In my time out on that side of the desk, I have not been real impressed with your performance. So I'm, asking that you kind of step up your game. I mean, I realize that we need to move forward with this project, but I just want you to stay focused.
Okay.
Any other comments? Is there a motion with regard to the matter that's presented? We have two alternatives or others. Commissioners?
Are we getting the cart before the horse without a obligation from the property owners?
Well, I think we need the work done now, and the allocation of that expense will come as we do the development agreements. Those tentative discussions are what they are, and they won't be finalized until the development agreements are done. But we need to have this work done in order to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move that we approve alternative one.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve alternative number 1, provide for the revised new contract amount of $361,600. In your motion in the second, who's going to authorize to sign this contract? You want the chair to sign it, or the administrator?
The chair.
All right. Is that all right with the second?
Yes.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to do alternate number 1 to have the chair to sign. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the highlight of the day is to hear from Andy Farmeyer of Hutton Construction. We don't usually have very many $13 million contracts come before the commission, so you have our attention, Andy. And we also want to thank you for conducting the bid work, getting it done, and presenting a guaranteed maximum price to us. If you would, introduce who's with you and yourself for the viewing public.
Okay. Morning, Commissioners. Andy Farmeyer with Hutton. This is Alexi Rojas. He's with Hutton also. He's going to be the project manager for the project. What we have before you today is the GMP, or the Guaranteed Maximum Price proposal for the new Health Department EMS facility that is located at 8th and Mary. So we put the project out to bid shortly the day after we presented to the commission back in December. We took bids on the project in January, on January 23rd. Within that, there were 2 packages that we actually rebid. Had a low number of bids, so we put it back out for an additional week and received new bids on 2 of those packages, but ultimately met with the committee on February 6th. Commissioner Basque was there, Robert Reese, and former Commissioner Dries and other administrators, county administrators were there. I went through each package one by one and reviewed the results of the bidding. And what you have before you is basically the culmination of those selected subcontractors put into this package. The guaranteed maximum price for the project is $12,983,914. There's some detail we can go into if you have any more specific questions on that. But the intent of with approval of the GMP, I believe drawings are still going through some city plan review comments right now. But assuming those get completed here in the next couple of weeks, our intent is to start work on the project on March 17th.
All right, Commissioners, I'm going to go ahead and go first, not because I have any great questions, but the front of the contract has 2 deductions of price. One's for lightweight insulated concrete. The second is for alternative site work and utility package. As I understand it, the guaranteed maximum price that you are proposing includes those deductions.
It includes one of the 2. So there were 2 bid alternates within the package. The first was to utilize a lightweight insulated concrete system, which is essentially your roof insulation system that goes underneath the final roof membrane. The net result of that was a savings of, I have that number in front of me, but I believe that was a savings of a little over $1,000, between $1,000 and $2,000. That committee elected they wanted to move forward with that, so that's incorporated in this GMP. Alternate number 2 was related to the design of the site work package and the storm sewer system. So the basis of design was an underground chambered stormwater retention system that allowed for a larger parking lot, because you didn't have to have a carve out square footage on site to have a detention basin. So the alternate was to kind of revert back to the more traditional system where you just had a dry detention pond on site, but that took up some square footage and you had a smaller parking lot as a result of it. That was a net savings of, I'm sorry, I don't have that number in front of me. I think over $100,000. But it was the decision of the committee not to go with that alternate and to take the larger, to stay with the base bid, which was the underground storm detention. So if you look at the GMP, there's 2 documents, should be in your packet. One is a formal AIA amendment to, and then the other is a supplemental document with our letterhead on it that kind of provides more detail. So the alternate number one for the lightweight is included in the GMP. That cost savings was captured in there. The alternate for the storm sewer system, which was 128,606 deduct, was not taken. So you'll be, this GMP is based on the larger parking lot with the underground stormwater system.
All right. Questions from commissioners?
I have one for Robert. You have 3 new commissioners on here, and I just saw the print, the architect drawing of it, and it's an amazing building. But to be transparent with the public, could you remind us how this is being funded?
The majority of this project is being funded through sales tax revenue. There is some general fund money and EMS money and health department money being funding that project as well, and you'll see that reflected in 24's transfers and so forth. But in general, as you see later in the commission meeting, we'll make some additional transfers, but at this point forward, it's all sales tax revenue to completely fund that project as it is completed in the third quarter of '26.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
To address that further and perhaps more specifically, Commissioner Utes, is that we made 2 sets of transfers in '24 and with the quarter-cent sales tax money that was authorized on this facility. Those transfers totaled, I believe, $13.5 million to cover the construction price. Is that right, Robert?
Just right at 13 million is total in that
fund right now.
in that fund.
And the concept also then is that when this project is done, we'll use the remaining sales tax money to avoid any additional ad valorem tax on any other improvements in the county.
That's correct.
Because I believe in that a 10-year sales tax.
That's a 15-year.
15-year
tax.
So, and this is about the 4th year of it. So, and it's a quarter-cent sales tax to reduce ad valorem tax in this construction of this building. And when it's done, then we'll use the sales tax to further reduce ad valorem tax cost to property owners on projects in the county. All right, the contract as presented requires my signature. The contract has my name butchered, not just misspelled, but you might want to tell them, whoever it is, that
I believe they did send a correction, Jerry, for that.
I didn't get it.
We spelled it with a J the first time. I apologize, Commissioner.
That's all right. I'm sure my staff never makes a mistake. But the thing about it is, publicly, my staff never makes a mistake. I do. And they know it, and so do we as folks that are responsible for what we put out. And your person that's standing beside you, could you tell us a little bit about him as being the person in charge of this project?
Yeah, Lexi, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm Alexi Rojas, as Annie said. I was born and raised here in Garden City. Went out to Kansas State, got my mechanical engineering degree. Came back to work in Garden City because I have family here. And I have about 6 years of construction experience now. Variety of projects, schools, healthcare facilities, and yeah, I'll just be managing this project financial-wise, schedule-wise, and hope and deliver the community a good building.
All right, thank you very much. Questions for commissioners to our own Mr. Rojas? Yes, sir.
I asked this during the pre-construction meeting, But since it's such a flat site and you're gonna use the underground storage for stormwater, will you still have to haul material in to raise the building?
No, we actually cut that, the import material significantly from the first drawings. We're gonna take a lot of the fill that we take out from that underground retention pond and use that for our building pad to raise it up about a foot.
Okay. So you won't have to bring any extra, well, that's,
Yeah, a little bit, but not as significant as we thought.
All right, Commissioners, other questions for our construction manager with a guaranteed maximum price? I was very happy to see the list of subcontractors on this project that you approved. And Commissioners, you make sure you look at that list that contains the names of a lot of local folks or Southwest Kansas folks, and that's good for our economy. If we're going to be spending our tax dollars building a building, these people need to be engaged, and I compliment Mr. Rojas and Mr. Farmeyer for seeing that through. I really hand out kudos to former Commissioner Dwayne Drees, Commissioner Basque, and our Administrator Robert Reese for making this contract come to fruition. The methodology for payment has been discussed. Its impact on taxpayers is minimal, and we'll use the sales tax dollars to complete any things that come up that we didn't know about as that sales tax continues to provide funding on an annual basis. All right, any other further discussion with regard to the guaranteed maximum price, the contract that's proposed, including the GMP amendment that was attached?
I would just like to echo your comments about using local contractors. I appreciate that as well. Appreciate your information as we go through the process. You've done a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there a motion to approve the construction of the building with a guaranteed maximum price in, as proposed by our chosen construction manager at risk, Hutton Construction?
I'd like to motion that we accept alternative one and both attachments as included.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we utilize the Exhibit A with the guaranteed maximum price amendment. Andy, would you discuss exactly what that amendment cost is? I want to be clear on what the guaranteed maximum price is so that when I vote, I know exactly what the price is.
So the guaranteed maximum price amount for the work as defined in the amendment and the supplemental attachment is $12,983,914.
All right, very good. Any other questions or discussion on the pending motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. I'll sign the contract.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Doesn't feel like we spent 13 million, but we did. Next on our agenda, Robert, we need your participation and help and understanding of the contract that KDOT has submitted to us. As anyone can see from the presentation, it's a voluminous thing with plenty of drawings and understandings. And if you would, please give us the view from 30,000 feet and any particular discussion that you want us to consider.
This project is related to the reconstruction of the 83 highway going south out of town. And in previous discussions over the past probably 3 years, it has been identified as approximately 5 miles being gifted back, if you will, back to the county in certain pieces and areas. The mileage will remain in asphalt, and it will have a approximately 1.5-inch overlay done prior to being given back to the county. Last year, in '24, there was an analysis done that gave you an estimated life expectancy of that once it is gifted back based upon what the local traffic would be. And it was determined at that point in time, based upon that option versus returning it back to gravel, that it was a better option for the county to retain that as asphalt road because of the low vehicle volume on that stretch of road that was being given back. In essence, that's what this agreement assures the county, is that you'll receive that back with that 1.5-inch overlay and so forth. I know CARES also had discussions with KDOT as well. Would you care to add anything more to that, to your discussions?
I think the only other matter is the chairman had asked me to talk to them about the box culvert and the possibility of what that would look like when this eventually possibly goes to 4-lane. They said they're not willing to put anything about another box culvert in this one. The box culvert that's being put in on this one is being funded by a grant. I think the chairman's concern was that if and when it goes to a 4-lane, who's going to be funding on a box culvert on the other side, or are we just going to have one and that goes to absolutely nowhere? So, but KDOT wasn't willing to put anything in this agreement about a future project that isn't actually in the works yet. So,
Well, our problem is that they're funding for the box culvert for a bike trail that doesn't have a beginning or an end at the location where this box culvert's going to be placed. The county's no longer being asked to fund the cost of materials for that box culvert. But KDOT is not willing to agree now to build the box culvert and pay for it when it's converted to 4-lane within the foreseeable future. That is their prerogative as the state, and I don't think we're in much of a negotiating position at this point in time. I think the highlights for us as the county, as described by the administrator, is that we are getting, I believe, 5.4 miles essentially of asphalt road for the benefit of the landowners that are adjacent. It does not take care of the concerns of the one landowner who visited with us last year at length about that road. But this is a prelude to a much better and bigger project, which is 4-lane from the city of Garden City to the county line, which is designed into this project for everybody to understand. The right-of-way has been acquired in order to build and construct 4-lane. The funding for the 4-lane has not been appropriated from the legislature, and KDOT wants to move forward with acquiring all of the land to build the 4-lane and to do the passing lane improvements now. And obviously we need highway enhancements in our community. I think this is the best solution that we could come up with. Our 11th hour request for a roundabout at the entrance of Southwind on a 2-lane highway was soundly and summarily rejected, as this project is now ready to go to bid as soon as we get this contract done. This is an important aspect of this matter for the members and community members in my district in Southwind. Quite a bit of work is being done. The north entrance to Southwind is being abandoned, and Bullard Avenue will be extended from Grandview, and a new Bullard Avenue will then make a T 90-degree intersection with the direct crossing into South Highway 83 out of Garden City of Main Street. The south entrance, or the west entrance to Southwind, will utilize some of the abandoned Old Highway 83. We'll bring Brookover Ranch Road up from its existing to meet with the intersection of the road coming out of Southwind, and then we'll cross at a T intersection at the south entrance of Southwind, so that we only have one intersection for the truck traffic and the school traffic of Southwind, as they still, most of the kids go to Pierceville, Plymouth. The change in that intersection was something that KDOT was amenable to doing, and we thank them for doing that, because that provides a safer intersection for both the kids and school buses, and provides an alternative for Southwind owners if they wish to not be at that heavily congested new north entrance as designed. It's my hope, I talked with several people in Topeka last week while I'm talking on highways, is that the 4-lane is something that can be funded under the next program. And for those who are not familiar, KDOT programs run in 10-year cycles, and it's up for renewal in 2 years. So our work is to get to work on getting the 4-lane established, as 83 is a very important part of our economy. It has much more traffic than many other areas in the state that have 4-lane highways already established. And I think that it's our responsibility to impress upon the legislature to make sure and secure our 4-lane funding for the 5400 corridor coming into Garden City, and for 83 from the Finney County line to Scott City and beyond. That discussion is for another day. Today is the review of this contract, and if I've missed any of the highlighted points, Mr. Administrator, do you have anything else that you wish to add to it?
No, you did have that meeting with Ron Hall a couple weeks ago that, as we walked through this project with him and discussed it. So.
Well, that was a really good meeting. It was a fun meeting, and we'll discuss that on our commissioners' updates, but some really good things going on North 83 with that project, and we'll get to that at a different time. But does anybody have any questions, commissioners, with regard to the proposed contract from the state? And yes, we are building a box culvert that doesn't have any bike path to it, none planned to get to it, and but it's not going to be at any expense of the county, other than we're going to have a box culvert that will have electricity in it, and as I've stated publicly before, it's going to gather 3 things: tumbleweeds, rattlesnakes, and migrants. So, Sheriff, he just left. I don't know how we're going to keep that thing clear at the angle that it sets. Our worst winds are northwest winds, and it's going to pile up with tumbleweeds, but we'll handle that. This is a good project for Southwest Kansas, and particularly for Finney County. The work that's been done in cooperation with the state and Ron Hall has been admirable, and the communication has been effective. We didn't get everything we wanted, and I don't think you ever will.
They're going to overlay all the highway we get back to the county, correct?
That is correct.
I was looking through here, I read something where needed. I saw that. I thought, that doesn't sound right.
Well, as I understand it, we're gonna get all 5.4
Yeah,
miles.
that's kind of what I thought too. So, okay. I didn't want them to find a loophole.
They're good at it.
Yes, they are.
I think we can resolve that, we need it on all 5.4 miles. But if the contract doesn't say it, it doesn't say it, and I leave that to the legal eagle and the administrator. But I believe that, that's the understanding.
My reading sometimes doesn't always compute, so I may have made a mistake.
They originally didn't actually have it spelled out. It's in the drawings that that's going to happen, but they did spell it out at our request after the initial look at the contract.
Any other discussion on this contract? If not, is there a motion to approve the contract as presented? Robert, I assume that the administrator recommends approval of the contract?
Yes, sir.
I'll motion that we approve the contract.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the KDOT contract for the improvements on South Highway 83 as diagrammed and incorporated therein. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the request for the commissioners to review and approve the issuing an RFP for our property and casualty insurance. Robert, do you have one prepared?
Should be in your packet, I believe. That is a draft, stamped draft, if I remember correctly. Let me get to that. And within that, there is, need some input from the commission on timing of when you want this. First and foremost, I need feedback from the commission. After your reading of the document, is this what you're wanting to send back? Once again, this is a request for proposal for broker service, and you're seeking a one-time fee of fee cost as opposed to a percentage cost for services for property and casualty insurance. Just need an idea of your timing on sending this out, requesting them back, and then my assumption is that you'll interview prospective candidate for this service. I would anticipate that initially you would probably have a couple of commissioners and maybe a few staff level on that committee to interview with either a second interview before the full board or a formal recommendation to the full board. So that's the clarification that I'm needing from the board as you look through that brokerage service.
Right, I have a timeline in mind on this, and that is that we send the RFP out and that proposal should be received by the 10th of March. Interviews by an appointed committee to occur, and that we will make a decision on March 18th or 17th, which is our second meeting in March.
Okay.
That way that the person chosen has the brokerage firm has an ability to discover what's available to us prior to renewal on July 1 of 2025. Takes about 60 days.
Okay, so you, proposals due back by March 10th.
Correct. If that fits on a schedule.
And interviews,
Somewhere the 13th or the 14th,
okay, okay.
and then make a decision by the board on the 17th.
Okay, agenda item on the 17th, correct?
Yes, it's not a very long period of time for the request to go out and the time for return, but I think we're all sitting here knowing that we'll probably have 2 or 3 at most. And certainly want to extend the invitation to Iron Insurance and Trent Specht, who's been doing our property and casualty for several years. And so Iron Insurance is moving but staying in Garden City. Their home office now is in Salina. And we have incurred 27 and 30%, between 27 and 30% increases in property and casualty the last 2 years. And I think we need to see what else is available.
Yeah, with a rather large deductible.
I don't even remember what our deductible
I think
is.
it's $250,000.
So we're self-insuring for the first bunch of it, and the premium for property and casualty is now over $700,000. It's a big number. So with that in mind,
So we can go ahead and fill in that schedule, which is in section 2, and send this out specifically to IMA and Iron Insurance for their response. Is that correct?
well, or anybody else that the committee believes that should, and we will have that committee, because I think Dory should serve on that committee, and yourself or Gary.
Gary will.
Gary will, and which 2 commissioners would like to do that? I should step out because Trent is a good friend, and I'm very loyal to the old firm, which was Keller Leopold, and Jim Keller was my first landlord when I went out on my own a long time ago in 1991. And of course, my son works for IMA, and my sister-in-law sits on their board of directors. So it won't be me that's going to serve on this committee to do the selection. So who would like to serve?
And we're talking about the end of the second week in March.
Right, the 13th or the 14th for the committee to meet and review the responses to the RFP and make a recommendation to the commission on the 17th.
I should be available for that.
Just so that you're aware, those are within some of the dates that Gary is going to be gone.
I am aware of that.
Okay, so if you're having a committee meeting with that during that time. that
I
would be an
understand.
issue.
He can't get to us from spring ball in Arizona. That's an approved time, and it's a vacation that's been long
Correct.
planned.
Okay.
We will have Robert available by phone as needed if. And Gary, do you see any problem with that, of going ahead and having that committee meeting and a recommendation to the commissioners on the 17th?
And that meeting on the 17th, Gary will be gone that day as well.
I
So,
understand that.
okay, just making sure you're aware.
I might suggest that you have, oftentimes, your fiscal committee will participate in this type of project, reviewing of insurances and so forth.
Okay, that would be the clerk, the treasurer, yourself, and who else? And myself.
Yes.
But I'm out.
But you'll have 2 commissioners that will participate in that, so.
Well, I haven't appointed anybody yet, but I wanted to know who wanted to volunteer. And I don't see any volunteers to my right. So
I can do it if you don't have any volunteers.
Jerry, I'm available that week for the committee meeting, but I'll miss the commission meeting the following week.
On the 17th?
Right.
Okay.
But I think with 2 commissioners, they can carry the message back to the board.
All right. Well, if you're volunteering, you're going
I
to
will.
get appointed.
I got it.
All right. And,
I'll help you out there.
well, he's not going to get it.
Oh, I think Kevin.
Did you want, Commissioner, did you want to serve? Yes. And we'll appoint Commissioner Basque and Commissioner Utes to work with the Finance Committee to meet on the 13th or the 14th on the call of the Commissioner Basque, you're going to head that committee, and it'll be on your call when you meet. Please coordinate that with Robert, because Mr. Mager, Gary's going to be gone, and also the availability of our other two elected officials on the Finance Committee.
Do you have a list of people you're gonna send this proposal out to? That's,
The two for sure, and anybody else the committee wants to do. And let's get it out to them right away.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
As a member of the fiscal committee, I'm curious, I know this is an RFP for broker services, but is there any appetite for also checking with K-Camp? And I don't know if it fits into this particular RFP, but I believe K-Camp is like a pool that many counties participate in that could possibly save quite a bit of money.
I strongly recommend we send it out to everybody that the Finance Committee and the two commissioners want it sent to. And we can send it to anybody. I mean, I don't care if you go through the phone book.
what's that?
I just know they're a pool as
What is
opposed
that?
to a broker, so I wanted to just kind of broach the question.
I'm fine with that.
Very good.
Okay, thank you. That's the timeline. We have year-end transfers, and we have more than one, but in the audience today is representatives from the county attorney's office, the deputy county attorney, Nick Verano, and the business manager for the county attorney's office. I'm not gonna have you speak yet until we hear what the proposed transfers are, and if you have any comments, then we'll hear from you.
All right, so let's get started here. I'll get to the general. We'll just skip to the last page here. All right. Year-end transfer. This is following the closing of '24. The 13th period after all the known expenses as run through the clerk's office and so forth. You'll see the first category there, transfers from within the general fund from the various departments into the various reserve funds. I'm not, there you go, Sam, appreciate that. You have treasurer's transfers for equipment reserve as well as register of deeds. Building and grounds has a majority of the transfers, which is consistent for about the last 5 years. 1.2 million for CIP projects for building and grounds, 600,000 specifically for the law enforcement center projects. Equipment reserve for the commission room, that specifically had to do with some upgrades for the speaker systems and so forth for this facility. Okay, CSC for prevention program, that's a $46,000, and then clerk's office, election office transfers for their equipment needs. Public Works, your traditional transfers both into special highway and special equipment funds, as well as the capital improvement funds, which is normally more building facility related improvements, and equipment reserve, things that are smaller pieces of equipment that don't qualify for special highway or equipment within the shop area. E-management and EMS transfers at the end of the year. Once again, that's how Paul paid for his pickup truck that you've authorized today. Fairgrounds, capital reserve was 125, and that's for all the various buildings down there that needs improvements. And equipment reserve as it relates to fairground tractors and mowers and so forth as well. GIS equipment reserve, this has to do with their computer equipment and so forth, printers and things of that nature. Law enforcement. After closing out 24, we were able to pull from the sheriff's side $200,000 to go into the equipment reserve, and from the attorney's side, initially we had $300,000. We actually have $400,000. It was split 85 and 15% as our previous meeting a couple of months ago, with 85% going into the CIP capital reserve fund for their building improvements, and 64 equipment reserve. JDC, 150,000 for building maintenance and upkeep. A couple of the sewer districts were starting to set aside funds for their equipment needs in the future, keeping in mind that that project will be completed by the end of March. We're just starting to set aside some funds now for future needs, and that, as identified by Sloan Meyer and Hancock, the engineering firm that did an analysis of all the sewer districts of the county. And then noxious weeds transfer into the noxious weed fund for capital outlay. Total transfer amount for the year end is $4,864,950. Those are my recommendations, subject to your questions.
All right. Commissioners, questions for the administrator, and mine is, Robert, we have 3 resolutions attached to our packet.
That is correct.
But they don't cover all of the transfers that are being proposed of 4.864950.
No, 2 of them will be for your special highway and then special equipment, and I believe the other one would be for the noxious weed fund, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we have a resolution on the total amount?
You don't need one. Those are specific by statute. The others are specific by statute. The others just need your formal motion.
Okay, we'll ask questions of the administrator, then we'll give the county attorney's office a chance to address the commission if they have any questions. Commissioners? All right.
No question.
Pretty straightforward. Mr. Brana and Office Manager, please come up and introduce yourself to the viewing public. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for your concerns. Please introduce who you have with you, Nick.
I'm Nick Vron. I'm the Deputy County Attorney, and this is Janeth Meza. She's our business manager and systems specialist, manages our software and all of that. I would just ask on behalf of my boss that you approve the transfers we've requested, and if the commission has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, the county attorney, you guys are satisfied with the 60,000 equipment reserve and the 340,000 capital improvement reserve?
Yes.
Any questions for the deputy county attorney? If not, thank you. For our new commissioners, if you would, Robert, please discuss why these transfers are important for the purposes of budgeting.
These transfers are utilized for various projects and equipment replacements. We started this program 5 years ago. for, once again, the systematic replacement of either facility needs, whether it's upgrades to heating and air, new roofs, whatever the case may be. Same way for equipment, whether that has to do on a larger scale for motor graders and things of that nature, all the way to down to PC replacement. Prior to that, there was no scheduled replacement for any of these types of things. So as you look through the various reserve funds, when you get monthly financial statements, you'll see those fund balances in those reserve funds, and they ebb and flow, and they're there for specific reasons. They coincide with the inventory that you'll sign off on in the first or second meeting in March.
Yeah, we're still pending one department.
And which in essence establishes the replacement program for your equipment reserve. And then about 3 years ago, we went through an assessment of buildings that looked at the envelope of the buildings, roof, windows, walls, as well as then the mechanical systems and so forth, to make a determination to the best of their ability of when to anticipate replacement of those types of things. It's a catch-up process, as you can imagine, at this point in time, but it's something that was started virtually 5 years ago and has served pretty well. And you're just now beginning to see the results of that systematic approach to setting aside little bit by little bit some funds. And the fruits of that process is an example of what you approved today was that $13 million project for the health department. When you walk into that a year and a half from now, that project will be fully funded and be a great addition for the community.
All right.
I've got a quick question for you. Now, Trista will invest these balances, correct, through her process?
Ask that again, please.
The treasurer will invest these balances, correct, so we get interest?
Yes, that is correct, yes.
Any other questions? I think we ought to first do the resolutions as required by statute, and then we'll do a motion to approve the remaining transfers, which total $4.864950. So is there a motion to approve Resolution 07, 2025, 08, 2025, and 09, 2025 as presented?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the three resolutions with regard to transfers as presented be approved. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll all sign those resolutions as presented by the clerk. Then I need a follow-up motion, except as otherwise provided in the three resolutions that were just approved, authorize the transfers as set forth in the 2024 Finney County year-end transfers, which now would total $4.864950. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the remaining transfers not heretofore authorized by the three resolutions in the total of $4.864950. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. We have a little bit of paperwork to do, so Mr. Smith, hold on. The training officer for the Garden City Fire Department will give us an update on fire report here in just a second. Larry, do we need a break?
Up to you. You want to take a break while we're doing paperwork?
Well, I want to hear from Kenny and then
Okay.
we'll take a break.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Now you know who's really the chairman.
Normally, I just walk over to the city administration building for the meeting, but I think I will drive today.
That was my thought. I'm not sure I want to take the chance that I'm going to fall down and you guys are going to have to.
But by the time you warm up your cold truck or vehicle and get all the way ambulate over there and find a parking spot, I'll take my chances and ski over there. As soon as we got done with Kenny, we're gonna take a break. Sounds good.
Miss the Dave Jones.
Oh, yeah. Just for 16 years is all.
The big signature.
I miss him telling us what we did in the 90s.
Yeah, I guess that was,
That's when he started. you know.
I guess that was because when he wrote those tickets out, he
Wouldn't make sure the prosecutor could read his signature.
so everybody could see.
Right, we are going to hear from the Garden City Fire Department, Kenny Smith, training officer. Good morning, Kenny. Please introduce yourself for the viewing public. I know I did that, but.
You're good. Good morning, Commissioners. Kenny Smith, Training Officer for the Garden City Fire Department. As you can see, our monthly overview of January, the department itself responded to about 240 calls for service. Out of those calls, you can see your prospective townships. Garfield had 4, Pleasant Valley and Terry Townships didn't have any. And then Sherlock had 8, Pierceville had 1, Garden City Township with 19, and Ivanhoe with 5. I always like to try to add in some calls of note. On January 3rd, multiple calls of service came out. There was one in particular, which was an accident on South 83, which resulted in a fatality. On January 24th, there was the vehicle fire that ended up being the hay bale fire, which then proceeded to cause Kincannon Lake to catch fire. Really on that one, the conglomerate of Garfield Township, Scott County, Kearney County, KDWP came out along with us to try to mitigate the fire. Paul did the resolution, I believe, on the last meeting that he brought up, which then allowed us to bring in Task Force 7, which is the regional asset of wildfires, if you will, to help mitigate all that, to keep it as low as it was because of the terrain and the undergrowth of fuel and the timber that is there around the lake. It just proved a little difficult and made sure that we didn't want it to spread further. Station 3 update is moving forward very progressively. They have upped the date to, I believe, April 18th as far as their end date. And then, of course, it's going to be maybe a month play in there as far as us moving in and doing all our checks and balances to make sure that the station is good to go for us to move in. Other than that, I will take questions as needed.
Yes, sir.
Kenny, I noticed somewhere that you'd purchased another brush truck.
Yes.
You've got 3 now?
That one we will, and it will be the same as the other 2, and that one is through Station 3. And then we also have a tanker that's coming through Station 3 that should be here. Both of them should be here this year, early next year, so.
Well, once again, I'd just like to say to the folks that help make this come to fruition, which is our taxpayers, when you have a grand opening and so forth, let's do our best to invite the public and make sure they have a chance to see this wonderful state-of-the-art fire station as well as EMS center. There's nothing wrong with being the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, we're going to take a break and we'll convene at 5 till 10.
Next item on the agenda is to hear from Mackenzie Phillips, Development Update. Good morning again.
Good morning again, Chairman and Commissioners. Mackenzie Phillips, Development and Administrative Coordinator. I have a few updates for you this morning. Two of them are on our high-risk rural road grants that we received from KDOT. So today, actually, we were having a pre-construction meeting for the first high-risk rural road project, which is on VFW. And that one, as in just a quick overview, that involves some centerline rumble strips. It involves some rumble strips on, can't remember which road it is, but it's one of the side streets that it intersects with VFW. And then also like some lighted signage and removing hazards from the roadway and adding shoulders as well. So that pre-construction meeting happens today. We will get more of a timeline of when that that work is actually going to start today after that pre-construction meeting. Then for our second high-risk rural road project, which is on Maple Street, we do have a field check meeting scheduled with KDOT for next week, dependent on what the weather does. So, but right now it's scheduled for next week. And then we are also working on scheduling meetings right now with the property owners for the Northwest Industrial District to get those development agreements complete. So, any questions for me?
All right, don't hear any. Thank you, Mackenzie.
Thank you.
Monthly reports, Madam Clerk.
Those were provided in your packet, report from HR and Fairgrounds and Public Works.
Any questions on those, Commissioners?
No.
All right, very good. County Counselor?
On the current tax sale that's on file, I have started getting some traction on getting some service on some of those, just in the sense that I've had a couple of phone calls and an email from some of those in the larger heirs ownership properties about what their intent is on those particular properties. So I know that service is being had on some of those at least. Still working through all of that. As to the next round of potential tax sale eligible properties, have had some traction on getting some payment on some of those that I have reached out to as well. I know we got payment from some this week, probably about, I think it was approximately 14,000, and there's another couple thousand from another couple other properties that expecting in the next week or so. So making some traction even on those eligible potential properties for our next tax sale. So just working through all of that.
Questions for the counselor? Hearing none, we'll go to the administrator.
All right. Well, last week, Gary and I spent an awful lot of time reviewing a lot of projects, finances, and operations of the county, and going over those items, getting prepared for this meeting, meeting with Hutton Construction for today's project and approval for that. I did ask Kyle here this morning to provide you with an update on the heating and air system, the VRF system here that we have in the 4 buildings. I do have a preliminary report back that I am waiting on. I do have costs for this building, and I'm waiting for costs of the rest of the buildings too, and then we'll go ahead and have that company present to you what their findings were and the costs associated with needed improvements to get things up and running. But I will have Kyle come up here and talk to you about his efforts over the last, I guess, few weeks or longer on library, courthouse, and so forth.
All right.
Kyle.
Morning, everybody. Kyle Joyce, Building Maintenance Supervisor. Currently, we have problems with all of our VRF systems. The admin is probably our best system right now, and it's probably only running about 50 to 75% efficiency. It constantly goes on and off, resets itself, comes on. It is able to keep the building somewhat warm. In some of the places down in the basement, it does not do any kind of cooling, which I know sounds silly for this time of year, but there are some places that we do need to keep cool. The courthouse currently is not running. Weber's has been our local HVAC that has been working on all of our systems. They are in talks with NSC, which is tech support for Samsung. They have to go through a list of procedures so they can diagnose the problem, make sure everything fits their criteria, not only for warranty purposes, but for just making sure the system is reading correctly. They are currently doing that at the courthouse, and they've run into a communication error with one of the units inside. They're trying to figure out if this is something out at the main units where they are not talking to each other, or if the unit itself is bad and we need to try to bypass that for now. The county attorney is throwing some codes right now. We have not been able to make it over there to diagnose because we've been focusing on the courthouse and the library because both of those systems are currently down completely. The library has been down for a while, at least since the beginning of the year. We did just have some parts come in for them, some boards that were put in. However, we were not able to start the system until we got those boards. Now that we have those in, we have uncovered more problems that we have to order more parts for. Those parts are already on their way, but we're kind of at the mercy with weather and Samsung as far as how fast they shipped them. We are trying to get them to ship everything out overnight as quick as they can so we can kind of stop this domino effect that we've run into where one goes down or we find something wrong with it, we move on to the next one, and it's kind of the same story over and over again. On a side note, the CSC, which does run off of a different type of VRF system, is currently having problems as well, and that's getting diagnosed too.
Okay, so the four major buildings, county attorney here, courthouse, and library, correct?
Yes.
We have, as commissioners, received quite a bit of feedback from the public with regard to the public library, and as you know, it closed a couple of days. I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't closed today also. What's the timeline on meeting their demands so that they can open the doors?
I can't give that right now. Monday, yesterday, where it was a holiday, Weber's was there working on it, and that's when we discovered these additional problems. They have already put into Samsung to get the parts coming, but I have not heard yet as far as their timeline to get them here.
I'd ask for you and the administrator to timely communicate that to the library board so that they have something to tell the people. We would sure like to receive an update from you, Robert, with regard to the library, especially since so many citizens have been so good at voicing their concerns to us. I would really appreciate that. Any other questions from the commission?
Has there been any discussion about potential litigation against the provider of these systems? Because it seems like it's like a lemon system, it seems like.
The answer is yes. Our understanding is that there has been some discussions with other systems that have been put in this region. And I don't know whether Kara has contacted any of the other communities yet that have been involved, but I know that there's been some discussion. I'm looking at Kyle as well, as far as any follow-up on that.
I think some of that as well was figuring out the diagnostic that we're going to get. I mean, we've got the preliminary on and figuring out kind of what it is that's up with the system now and where the deficiencies are in how it was put in. So I think figuring out what it is that we need to do probably is our first step.
And Kyle, will that diagnostic include air conditioning for the summertime too? Because this building in particular had some issues with air conditioning in the summertime.
Yeah, all of these VRFs, really since even the first year they were put in, which would have been middle of 2018, I believe, when everything was up and running for the first time. Anytime we have extreme heat in the summer, over 100 degrees for multiple days, cold days like today where it stays down under temperatures, we have problems. And it's been consistent for the 7 years that we've had it.
Yeah.
I would like to point out, I was 23 to 24 that the admin building was down for an entire year because we were trying to fix it, and that caused problems even, you know, during the times when it was nice out, because we were down when it got hot and it took that long to fix it. And I would imagine we're gonna have some of those same problems, hopefully not near that long, now that we kind of have Weber's working on it, and they've been really good as far as communication and trying to stay on top of it. I would imagine so far just this year, which is January, February, there's probably only been 5 or 6 days that they have not been working on a system of ours. They've constantly had somebody out trying to diagnose it and replacing things.
As I understand, the engineers at ICE, the integration customs engineers, we've been working with and have a solution. We're not yet to the point of knowing the cost of that, but the engineers have been dealing with the real problem with the VFR system, which is its design.
Correct.
It's not a matter of installation, it's a matter of design, and it does not function and has not for us. One of the real complicating factors, Commissioner Basque, is that the 360 engineering firm that designed this is sold, and the principles of 360 have been dispersed all over the country. The resulting firm that bought the assets of 360 Engineering are now in Oregon, and I'll leave for the counselor to describe the various problems that anybody would have trying to chase the folks of something that was installed and been used for 7 years, and the technical issues of whether litigation has any merit at all. But that's where we find ourselves. I think the real question is what can we do as owners and as a commission to make sure that our buildings have suitable and adequate facilities in order for the public to engage in the library. But more importantly to me is that our employees in the county attorney's office and those county, federal, or state employees in the courthouse that we're obligated to provide according to unification, and most importantly, the employees in this building deserve a suitable place with which to conduct their business and to work and live. As we all know, we spend more time at our place of business than we do anywhere else in our waking hours during our lifetime. It's greatly disappointing when in January of 2024, we had a meeting in this room where the temperature was 46 degrees, and I'm kind of tough when it comes to cold, but I wouldn't have wanted to work here all day. And so the message has to be from us at the commission to everyone who works in this building and the buildings that are affected. We recognize the problem and we're searching for the solution, and the solution isn't cheap. And when I say not cheap is that we're talking about a whole bunch of money again to make something that we still owe $3 million on or more, and are making payments to get rid of, and we're going to have to incur more debt to fix it. Now, that's not a very bright or rosy scenario, but I think that as a board, we need to be determined to get to the bottom of it, find a solution. That's why we've engaged the engineers to find the solution, and we're going to provide the right result for the employees who deserve to have a good place to work, to the people who want to go to the library, to have a good experience there. The county attorney and the staff deserve it, and the people in the court system, it's our obligation to provide the courthouse to them.
They sold the system to lots of entities in southwest Kansas. I know Meade School District and Meade County has the same issues. And I think Southwest Heights School System has the same issues.
I heard Horace Good as well.
It's, they were good salesmen.
I do have
Questions?
a comment if you'd like. So I was appointed as ex officio member to the library board, and I was there for my first library board meeting, and it was cold. It regularly is down into the 40s, and even for our meeting, we had one room where she brought in extra electric heaters, and we had blankets, and we had our coats on, and that was for about an hour. It was really cold, and I just want the public to be aware that we're working on it. They did, like you said, they brought in a part, fired it up, and more things went wrong, and as I understand, there are 2 or 3 other parts that are on order right now.
So what we're doing is, we've gone through this with Samsung quite a few times, where they send us the first part, later they say we need this other part. So we've just been buying both at the same time. With this last problem that we ran into at the library, we're ordering some additional stuff just so that way we maybe don't have to wait in case this is something that is wrong also. Again, waiting on them to go through their warranty process, making sure they put it on a truck so it gets sent here, and then the weather. Those are our biggest obstacles at the moment, is just how long is it gonna take to get here. But we got extra things, so hopefully this time around, when we turn it on, we're not gonna have more problems, or we're at least able to have partial functionality instead of the whole thing being down. And that was our biggest issue at the library, is a lot of these run off of 3 main units, and they have one of them, which they said is a master unit. The other ones are what they call slave units. Well, if the master goes down, you can't do anything because it can't communicate to the other 2. If one of the additional ones goes down, you can sometimes bypass those and have minimal functionality. We're just really unlucky at this point that it was the master unit that's having all the problems right now.
Yeah, and with the library, the unit's not functioning at all.
No.
And, you know, some of the other buildings, there is some functionality, so it's not, you know, as dire, I guess. But I want to commend the staff to the library, and Pam is here if anybody has any questions for her. But they have maintained positive attitudes, and they have showed up for work. They have tried to, you know, do the best that they can, but obviously she can't have staff in there working in 40 degrees, 8 hours a day. So I just really want the public to understand. I've gotten calls about it. I know other commissioners probably have too, and we're doing everything we can. But it is a bigger problem than maybe people realize, so.
And I would like to say it's a common problem. Again, we've been dealing with this since the first year. It's been an ongoing issue since 2018, so.
All right, anything else for Kyle, Building and Maintenance Supervisor? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else on your report, sir?
That is it for me, unless you have any specific questions.
I do have one.
Yes, sir.
Last time we tabled the purchase of a corporate scan from top to bottom from Raftellus, and we said we were going to put that out for RFP. What's the timeline to get the RFP for that?
We'll be able to get back on that RFQ for that this week, so we'll get it going.
Okay, and we can probably get that approved March 3rd then?
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else for the administrator? And also on the RFQ, also for Raftellus, is they provide a service for search for an administrator. Do we want to do both of them?
Same thing, yes. We'll work on both.
Questions from the commissioners about RFQ for Raftellus, or the proposal on the scan of the overview from top to bottom, as well as executive search? we'll get those out and on our agenda for March 3rd.
Did you want to give I guess, a brief summary of what the purpose of that organizational scan is?
Well, yeah, that scan, Madam Counselor, is not for terminating employees or making adjustments with regard to the number or longevity of employees, but rather that purpose of that scan is to help us as commissioners and as an organization function. And this scan is also to be a top-to-bottom review with the assistance of the consultant, along with our elected officials who have also agreed to participate in this organizational review. So it is not a downsizing of workforce or a workforce reduction plan. Anything else, Madam Counselor?
No.
Obviously, the RFQ for executive search services is so that we broaden our expanse of potential candidates for our position. And we're very lucky to have Mr. Meager helping us on an interim basis, but also to help us with our search, and a national firm to widen that search beyond the Kansas Association of Counties is likewise one of the things that I think that we should do as a commission in our endeavor to be the best. So that's why there will be the 2 RFQs that'll go out for your review on March 3rd. All right, back to our agenda. Madam Clerk, upcoming events.
I don't believe there was anything new added to that today, but I would point out that you've got a county commissioners annual conference, I believe, at the end of April for the national, or the, yes, County Commissioners Association Annual Conference is April 21st through 23rd.
And you're looking for volunteers to go to that conference?
Well, it's just something to think about. It's coming up in the next couple of months, so I just wanted to point that out.
All right, well, I would sure like at least 2 commissioners to attend. I have not gone, and I will not be going. That is way late in the spring, and I just want everybody to know that I'll be missing the first meeting in May. It's my annual chance to slaughter crappie fishing on the lakes in eastern Kansas, so I'll be gone the first meeting in May. Madam Vice Chairman, you will be chairing that meeting. And so please.
He's got to share any, that he catches.
Oh, well, first of all, the bounty has to be there, and last year was not it. And 2 years ago, I went just so I could see the high water. The lakes were 20 feet over. And water problem out here in western Kansas, we don't recognize that too much rain is as bad as none, or too little. So please get this on your calendar. We don't have to decide that today as to who's going to that conference. But we have some things that would really be good for us to attend that conference on a statewide basis. There's proposed constitutional amendments on valuation that needs to be discussed, other issues for counties. I believe the conference would be in our best interest to send 2 commissioners to that meeting late in April. Anything else, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Commissioners' reports, we'll go seniority over the rest. So, Commissioner Jones?
Since I didn't attend the last commission meeting, thinking back, I went to a senior center meeting, nothing new there. Also attended the commission meeting in Kearney County for KLPG to update them on dues and those type of issues. Is quite interesting to sit there through their meeting a little bit. They have the same issues we do about finding trustees for townships and those type of things, issues. I thought maybe what we should do, one of these, several years ago we had a joint meeting of commissioners, just the adjoining counties around Finney County, but we hosted it out at the endowment room, and Great Western catered it, and maybe that might be something we might think about doing again this spring.
Oh, when would you like to do it? After wheat harvest in July? Or,
Doesn't make any difference to me.
you know, I know many of our commissioners in the outlying counties are agrarians, and I wouldn't want to interfere with
It'd
harvest.
be, since, let's see, Kearney County is, there's 2 new commissioners. Because Shannon McCormick was out he's undergoing cancer treatment, so he wasn't there, but the other 2 I didn't know. Well, I knew one of them a little bit, Randy Combs. But the other one I did not know.
All right. Anything else, sir?
No.
All right. Vice Chairman Gurman?
I did have a meeting with the library director and the president of the board regarding the challenges that they're facing, and didn't really have any decisions or anything, not much we could do other than they just kind of filled me in. They also wanted to go over, you know, policy, procedure, the way that things are run there, so that was a good meeting, but I haven't had any other meetings since our last meeting.
Commissioner Basque?
On February 9th, I attended the Vietnamese New Year celebration at the high school. And on the 10th, attended my first meeting for the extension for Finney County and Scott County at their new building in Scott City. And being a city kid, I wouldn't say that I learned a lot about livestock and 4-H and all those kind of things, but they did a pretty good job of trying to briefly explain those things to me. So the Fair Board meeting on last Wednesday was canceled due to weather, so I haven't attended that one yet. So I think that's all that I have to report.
Commissioner Utes?
Yes, on February 11th, for clarification, LEPC, Local Emergency Planning Committee, attended that meeting. It was amazing. I mean, Kevin and I have been through those over the years. We've been in law enforcement, but it's amazing the collaboration that goes on in those with all of our entities, our public works, our first responders, hospitals, so forth. And their preparation for last week's storm was excellent, outstanding work. March 24th, I believe, is severe weather spotter training. If you've never gone to, I would encourage you to go. The more we have out there, the better. We have not had a law enforcement center renovation committee meeting. However, last Friday, Dwayne Drees, myself, and Robert and Gary met just to kind of keep us all on the same page. We had some new ideas and some thoughts, so we've got a lot of strategizing to do in the future.
Well, are you giving the report then to the commission?
I think, Robert, they're gonna wanna know the timelines and everything. I think Robert would be better versed on the timeline.
Yeah, actually, he did manage to get a hold of Sean late last week, and he stated he would be able to be here today at that meeting, and so he'll give that timeline today.
Oh, wonderful.
Yep.
Oh, very good, thank you. Anything else, Commissioner?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All right, I spent quite a bit of time in Topeka with the weather last week. It was refreshing to have an opportunity to visit friends and family, but then on Thursday to testify before the House Tax Committee in support of the half-cent dedicated sales tax for the construction of the jail and remodel of the LEC. My testimony was following Senator Clifford and Representative Pishney. My time was consumed by answering questions with regard to sales tax in Finney County. I'm pleased to report John Penninger reached out to Commissioner Jones to advise us that the House Tax Committee did favorably pass the half-cent sales tax out to the floor. So we all know that the floor at the House can be handled two ways. It can be put on the consent agenda and passed by simple passage of the consent agenda, or it can be debated on the floor. I look for it to be on the consent agenda at the call of the speaker. At that point, the half-cent sales tax bill then goes to the Senate. Dr. Clifford believes that the half-cent sales tax will not be referred for hearing or debate, but rather be handled on the consent agenda and presented to the governor during session this year for passage and approval. Then our work will begin here locally with regard to the half-cent sales tax. That bill provides for us to seek and get approval of the voters in November by our electorate of a half-cent dedicated sales tax for the construction of the new jail, remodel of the LEC. We'll provide this information to the city, the two cities, City of Holcomb, City of Garden City, today at 11 o'clock. That meeting is set to convene here shortly. The other items that I've handled since that have been concentrated on the half-cent sales tax and also with the contract that we signed today and approved with regard to the EMS building. And while it's a cold morning in Garden City, it really warms my heart to see the support of the taxpayers on these projects that are critical for Garden City and Finney County to continue to grow and expand. And we'll look for that same taxpayer support when the time comes in November. In that regard, each of us as commissioners will be asked to be the front and center people, the tip of the arrow, so to speak, to get the message to the taxpayers. I've already committed to meet with the construction home builders in July. We will, once this bill passes, we'll formulate a committee on and then get some community involvement and have a plan where the sales tax initiative can get some more traction and better organization, not just from us as commissioners, but for community involvement. So I urge you to be thinking about the best ways to get that passed, as I am quite confident that our legislature and the governor will approve our amendments to state law to allow us to give this initiative to the taxpayers in November. In that regard, I would like to specifically thank past chair and current member of our commission, Larry Jones, for his leadership work with LPGA in the area of this, and as well as his contacts and numerous contacts and years of experience with the legislature on county issues in Topeka. And Commissioner Jones, thank you very much. I appreciate the work and ask for your continued
welcome
support in that area.
We're fortunate that we have the ability to have sales tax proposals that have done and have built the facilities that we have built here in Finney County. And I always point that out when I visit other commissioners around areas, that we appreciate their patronage in Finney County.
Well, the irony of that is that the chairman of the House Tax Committee was quick to point out to Commissioner Finney, since he was up there in 2017 begging for forgiveness on the 30-cent sales tax that we provided. But I spent my testimony telling the House Tax Committee members what we did with that 30-cent sales tax, and what we did and what we have done with our quarter-cent sales tax, and what we intend to do with this half sales tax. And those commissioners really did, those members got to hear from us that our tax dollars in sales tax are saving our property owners a tremendous tax burden in order to build the essential items that we need. And as past commissioners, Dwayne Drees and Larry Jones and Lon Pishney provided the groundwork for this opportunity, this is not, it'd be nice and a luxury to have a new jail. This is needed for the next 40 years for our community and for law enforcement and for the people that house and care and take care of those people who have offended the peace and dignity of our community. As the former county attorney in Kearney County used to proclaim in court. I want to close my comments on what we have is also to make sure that, I think a lot of us attended the legislative coffee. Kevin was the only person who didn't get to make it. The legislative coffees, while none of us had really a chance to speak, although Commissioner Jones did on an unrelated topic, there are some things going around in Topeka that are of great concern to all of us in county government. And one is the constitutional amendment, which was debated in the House Tax Committee right after our bill, limiting or putting caps on the market value or raises in persons' taxes, and then the mechanism by which they recapture that valuation on sale or transfer or death. There's some real traps to that, folks, and we as commissioners need to be mindful and helpful to our representatives to remind them how we fund and operate as a local government entity. Of other significant concern of things going on in Topeka is that I revert back to my early days on the Kansas Bar Association Legislative Committee. We were all very relieved when the legislature adjourned because they hadn't messed anything up. Now, at a time when we need legislative action, it's probably not very good to throw any mud towards the legislature, but I hope that they are all very mindful of unfunded mandates and unintended consequences to their review of these proposed constitutional amendments on the method of valuation and the collection of ad valorem taxes, which is critical to the county's ability to provide the essential services that we do.
We're fortunate that leadership in Topeka on some key committees are all previous county commissioners, so they understand the rule of local government, and that's greatly needed. Jim Minix from Scott City runs the Water Committee. Adam Smith from Weskin is in charge of the Tax Committee. Shannon Francis is in charge of Transportation. All three of them were former county commissioners. So,
and kudos. I didn't publicly get a chance to thank Representative Pishney and Representative Bob Lewis for their hospitality and leadership while I was there, and just understand that their day is really busy, and when you go to the Capitol to testify, you're kind of, oh, I'd been there many, many times, but it's still very nice for the effort that they put in to make sure that the day went as planned and that the likelihood of our success was because of the groundwork that they had done. And we'll still be looking to Dr. Clifford to push our tax bill through the Senate and hopefully favorably received by the governor. On that note, we did get a new judge appointed from Judge Kelly. And Kara, could you announce the naming of the new judge?
Putting me on the spot. It's Natalie, and I cannot remember her last name.
Okay, I think it's Wyckoff, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Okay, it's
Natalie. Different.
Judge Natalie, welcome. That's the best we can do. Yeah, she practices in Dodge City. The governor was being pulled in two different directions by the local contingency, and Chief of Staff has made it known that the governor chose provide an alternative for those of us.
Morlock.
Morlock, yeah.
Pardon?
Morlock.
Natalie Warlock.
Morlock. M.
M. All right. Thank you. I promise I won't mispronounce her name when I appear in court.
Not a good time to mispronounce.
No, it's not. All right. We have any other business before the commission, and we should adjourn so that we can be timely to the city's chambers where we will meet jointly at 11 o'clock. Also on our schedule is a regular session here, March 3rd, work session on March 3rd following. Commissioner Utes has volunteered to do some work with regard to that work session, which is our governance model, goals and objectives, and also for Robert and for Gary. Gary, it'll be your first session as the administrator, and Robert helping us in consult with budget goals and priorities for 2026. Then we have regular session scheduled for March 17th at 8:30. Is there anything else before the commission? Motion to adjourn?
Motion. I so move.
Is there moved and seconded to adjourn? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. We'll convene at 11 over at the city.